All right. Ms. Strong and Ms. Ellis, you're standing.
Yes, Shazam, Your Honor. There is one quick matter I'd like to address before the jury comes back in and testimony resumes.
Yes,
and that is that I am holding in my hand what I have just received and has been told is a sealed envelope containing workers' compensation records.
Oh.
And so I would ask to approach to present these to the court and ask the court for a court order for these.
All right, what I'll do then is I'll take those home. I didn't really want to see our state in this North Carolina this weekend and exploring North Carolina on public television tonight. No, I'm just...
It's not very thick.
I don't
kind
know.
of thin. I mean,
We'll find out. I'll take a look
if
at
you
it.
designated me, for example, I'd be able to look at them, but I suspect there'd be an objection.
I'm going to mark those as State v. Riley, workers, comp papers, received in open court, and closed envelope. From D. Strong. 8/6/15. 407. All right, I'll take those home with me and review those then. And I'll get a feel for whether that's everything we have and what's discoverable and not discoverable in this week. Stuff. All right, any other matters?
Not for the defense at this time.
Thank you. We're all clear on what, that the final objection was sustained. We're all clear on that, everybody? And no profit. All right. Sheriff, bring the jury back in, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Hutchins, in your job, do you know who the alleged victim is on the paperwork?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And say some criminal defense lawyer whose initials are AC called you up and said, hey, can you put my client's name as the victim? What would you do?
I'll tell you now.
Because you listen to Mr. McMaster and what he tells you to put on there, right?
Yeah, if we don't have any other identification, we usually will take the information provided to us by the detectives or the officer.
But you weren't there, so you don't, that's why we have a jury, right?
I was not there when it was collected, correct?
And getting back to gunshot residue testing, where does that get sent?
Typically it's sent to the North Carolina State Crime Lab.
And I believe you said that form that we were talking about gets sent along with the actual materials, the test.
Yes, it's placed in the envelope and sent with the materials.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That would be my questions for this witness at this particular moment.
Thank you, Mr. Charles. Ms. Ellis, any additional questions of the witness and such?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Hutchins, you're familiar with the GSR testing and what they're looking for?
A little familiar, yes.
And what is it that they're looking for in those tests?
Again, they're typically looking for the components of gunshot residue, which would be typically barium, antimony, and lead.
And as a supervisor in your lab, are you familiar with what would happen if two people are very close to a weapon that is discharged?
Yes.
And what would happen if two people are very close to a weapon that is fired?
The gunshot residue could end up on the other person's skin or clothing.
Based on that, if two people are very close to a weapon, would the GSR test be able to tell you who fired a weapon?
No, it cannot.
Can the GSR ever tell you who fired a weapon?
No, it cannot.
What can it tell you, if anything?
It can just tell you those chemical components were on the person's skin or clothing.
Which would be, what would that mean?
It means they were in the proximity of those chemicals. Either they were holding a gun that had been fired, they were in close proximity, they fired a gun, possibly they touched something that had those chemicals on it. It can mean a variety of things.
So if you knew that two people were in close proximity with that weapon, would it be valuable for you? Would those testing be valuable for you to evaluate who fired the weapon?
That would probably be more for an investigator to answer, but I would say probably not. It just means that they were both in close proximity.
Thank you. And as the lab supervisor, DNA testing and the like, do you generally send that off if you know who the suspect is?
No, we don't.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Charles, any recalls?
Yes, very briefly. In this case, DNA samples were sent off to the lab, weren't they?
I don't know if they were or not. I know DNA swabs were collected from various items. I don't know if they were sent.
And who would know that?
The lead investigator typically makes the request.
And that would be Corporal McMaster.
If he was lead on the case, then he would have made the request.
And I thought I heard you say you took pictures of Mr. Reali at headquarters?
Yes, I did.
Did you take pictures of his hands?
I did not take specific pictures of both hands. I took photos of his left hand because he did have injuries on it, but both hands were in some of the overall photos I took of him.
What hands were
In some of the overall photos I took of him.
And if he didn't have burn marks on his hands, did he?
Not that I recall, no.
And you've had other cases that involved a discharge of a firearm where someone had their hand up on the muzzle and received burn marks.
No,
Haven't you?
I have not.
Thank you very much. That would be my questions at this particular time.
Any other questions, anyone?
Nothing for the state, for this witness, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may step down. Call your next witness, please.
Your Honor, the State Calls Officer Muse.
Thank you.
Fortunately, came on cooperation with this officer that the testimony you should now give the jury and the court in the case now being heard shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So that's God.
I did.
Thank you.
Sir, please tell the court your name.
Michael Muse.
How are you employed?
I'm a police officer with the Durham Police Department's K-9 unit.
How long have you held that position?
6 years.
And during those 6 years, have you been an officer with the K-9 unit that entire time?
That's the time I've been with the K-9 unit. I've been with the police department 9.5 years.
And what other positions have you held in the police department?
I was a patrol officer.
What was your position on December 18th of 2012?
I was assigned to the K-9 unit.
And were you working on duty on December 18th of 2012?
I was.
And what would have been your duties on that day?
The K-9 unit's a patrol support unit. We respond to all in-progress calls for service, break-ins, robberies, gunshot wounds, things of that nature, anywhere the dog might be needed.
And what type of situation in general is it that would need a dog?
Anywhere something needs to be located, the dog's a locating tool, so if discarded evidence, track down a robber, then multiple reasons.
And did you come to respond to Newcastle Road on December 18th?
Yes, I did.
Tell the court how it is that you came to go to that location.
After we left the apartments on, I believe it was Wildwood, I was requested to do an article search along the wooded area between 85 and I believe it's the Forest Point Apartments, so the apartments on Forest Road.
And you said you were requested to do what type of search?
An article search?
And did you do that article search at Forest or Newcastle?
I did, on that day, the day of the incident, I did an article search on Forest Road, and the next day I did an article search on off of Wildwood, as well as one off of Stadium Drive.
So let me take you back to December 18th. You did an article search on Forest Road.
Yes, ma'am.
What articles were you looking for?
We were looking for the items that have been stolen from Officer Stewart, his weapon.
Objection, motion to strike.
Sustained. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury are to disregard that last answer.
Officer Muse, could you tell the court what items you were looking for without telling the court how it is that they came to need to be located?
We were looking for items that could be of evidentiary value to the case, like
Could you name those items?
a police badge, handcuffs, and a firearm.
And at the time that you were performing this article search, did you know who these items belonged to or who they were issued to?
I did not.
Who was that?
Officer Stewart.
And where did you start that search?
I believe I started back near where Officer Stewart's SUV was and worked the wood line along 85, all the way down to the, even past the dumpsters. I believe there's some sort of retaining wall all the way at the end of the apartments. If you had a map of the area, I could show you, I could point it out. I don't know if you have that available.
I believe that we do. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Officer Muse, I am approaching you with what has been marked as State's Exhibit 24 for identification. Could you take a look at that document and tell the court what it is?
It appears to be an overhead view of the Forest Road, which leads into that apartment complex.
And is this a map that would aid you in illustrating your testimony today?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, the state moves to admit State's Exhibit 24 into evidence for illustrative purposes.
No objection from the defense.
Thank you. State's Exhibit number 24 is admitted for illustrative purposes.
And Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to publish State's Exhibit 24 to the
That's
jury.
allowed.
Go ahead.
Clear.
Taking this marker, or that one, could you please indicate on this map the area that you just described?
So I believe Officer Stewart's car was somewhere here, where it said Forest Road. I'm sorry, trying to block it. This wooded area from this house all the way down along the along I-85 out to 85, came down to this end where, like I said, I believe it's some sort of retaining wall. Worked that area mostly, and then even though there was no indication that the weapon or badge or whatever had been thrown elsewhere, I worked the entire complex to see if we located any evidence, and we found nothing.
And if you could go ahead and mark those areas with that marker, please, sir.
Do you want me to draw in some big areas, the whole thing?
Yes,
You want to just like shade it in, or just draw a line?
whatever's easier for you, sir.
So here. Basically made a big circle.
And you indicated that it was a we. Who else was with you?
My canine partner, Burns.
And what type of dog is Prince?
He's a Belgian Malinois.
A Belgian.
Malinois, M-A-L-I-N-O-I-S.
Thank you, sir. How long did you search?
I don't recall, man. It was a decent amount of time, over an hour.
And what, if anything, was located during that search?
We didn't look at anything, man.
And did you and Prince embark upon any other searches in relation to this case?
We did, man.
And where did those searches occur?
Like I said, one off of Wildwood Road near an apartment where the suspect vehicle was initially located on the 18th, as well as another search on Stadium Drive from Broad Street to Carver Street. Those two searches were done collectively as a unit the following day.
Both of those were done the following day.
Yes, ma'am.
And now the first search you mentioned was on Wildwood Road?
I don't remember which one came first, ma'am, but I believe it was.
And what articles were you searching for on December 19th in that area?
When we went to Wildwood Road, we were requested as a result of a badge and a pair of handcuffs being found in the trash of like the pool building or country house for the apartment complex at Wildwood Road. So at that point, our main goal was to locate the firearm.
And could you tell the court about the search area for that search?
It was a very large search area. Again, if you have a photo an aerial photo would be easier to describe.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
Officer Muse, I'm approaching you with what has been marked as State's Exhibit 25 for identification purposes. Could you identify that for the court?
Yes, ma'am. It appears to be an overhead view of the Wildwood Road and Newcastle Road apartment complex area.
Thank you, sir. Would this map help illustrate your testimony?
It would, ma'am.
Your Honor, I move to have State's Exhibit 25 admitted into evidence for illustrative purposes.
No objection from defense.
Thank you. State's Exhibit number 25 is admitted for illustrative purposes.
And Your Honor, the State moves to publish to the jury at this
It's
time.
allowed.
And Officer Muse, I'm going to ask you to do as we did before and take a Sharpie. And if you could indicate on this map via that Sharpie marker the area that was searched
Okay, so,
on December 19, 2012.
yes, ma'am. So for purposes of this, there were multiple handlers and multiple dogs involved. I can tell you the general area in which everyone searched, and I can also point out exactly where I searched.
If you could do both, please.
Okay, so I believe this was the building right here where the suspect vehicle was found in this cul-de-sac. And then we searched, and then the badge and handcuffs were found somewhere over here, I believe. Yeah, so we searched from the back of this building, hit the wood line all the way back here, and we actually went even further beyond this, I believe, because there's a cut that leads out to Horton Road that we also searched. But we basically searched from this area down, and this is a very densely, heavily wooded area, and there's actually a fence that runs back in here that officers worked on the inside of that as well, probably up to about this point. I don't think they went any further east than that. And we basically divided it up into a grid, and we all searched a quadrant. I mainly focused on this run, which is, it's a cleared path behind the buildings between the gate and the back of the building.
And how long did that particular search last?
Hours. We were out there a long time.
If you could go ahead and sign or initial this map on one of the borders. Thank you so much. What, if anything, was found during that search?
We didn't find anything out.
You also conducted an additional search in relation to this case on December 19th, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And where did that search occur?
Along Stadium Drive from Broad Street to Carver Street.
Would a map help illustrate your testimony with respect to that search?
It would have
Permission to reapproach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
While I'm up here, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and initial State's Exhibit 24. Thank you, sir. And now I'm showing you what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 26. Could you please take a look at that and identify it for the court?
It's an overhead view. I'm just trying to get my bearings of where we are on the map. Broad Street. Here it is. Okay. Yes, I found it. It's an overhead view of, it's a rather pulled out view of the area we searched from Broad to Carver.
And would this map help illustrate your testimony with respect to that additional search on December 19th?
Yes, it would, ma'am.
Your Honor, the state moves to admit State's Exhibit 26 into evidence for illustrative purposes and to publish to the jury.
No objection.
Thank you. State's Exhibit 26 is admitted for illustrative purposes. The request to publish is allowed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Also, Muse, if you could again put that on the Elmo and indicate with the marker the area search.
Okay, so this yellow line right here is Broad Street, and this yellow line is Carver Street. We searched heavily wooded areas on either side between those two. Again, with multiple dog teams, broke it up into separate quadrants and searched it until we felt that we had gone through the entire area efficiently.
Could you describe that area for the court?
It's mostly brush and trees on either side. There's a little road, probably about 100 yards up from Broad Street on the right-hand side. I believe it's a gravel road, but for the most part, I believe it's all wooded area with the exception of it looks like there's a building here, and I think there's a gravel driveway that goes down to some sort of maybe a power substation. I don't recall.
How long did that search last?
Probably close to an hour and a half. Again, it's a very large area to search.
If you could go ahead and initial State's Exhibit 26 as the document that you marked. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
And Officer Muse, what, if anything, was found on that search?
We didn't find anything there.
And again, you said we, so I take it you were not the only officer searching.
Correct.
Do you have, or do you recall about how many officers participated in that search?
I believe there are at least 5 K-9 teams out there, including myself.
And why did you search this area?
I believe I received a call from Sergeant Green, and they had located a discarded cell phone in the roadway. They asked me to come over there thinking possibly the weapon had also been discarded in that area.
Thank you so much. Those are all my questions. Your Honor, permission to approach the clerk with these exhibits.
Yes, ma'am. Questions of Officer Muse, Mr. Jones?
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Officer Muse. I have no questions for you.
Thank you. You may sit.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would call Eddie Wright to the stand.
Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall now give the court in the case now being heard shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Good morning, Mr. Wright.
Good morning.
It's actually
Afternoon, actually.
Feels like morning since it's dark outside. Sir, could you please state your name and occupation for the court?
My name is Edward Wright. I'm a landscaper now. I was a maintenance supervisor at Foxfire.
Okay. And could you tell the jury what Foxfire is?
Foxfire is an apartment community over on Horton and Stadium Drive.
And sir, how long did you work there as a maintenance person for that apartment complex?
Up until about 3 months ago, about 21 years.
And sir, did you have the occasion to contact the police department on 12/18/2012?
I did.
And can you tell us why you contacted the police department on December 19th, 2012?
Okay, on a routine maintenance of a bathroom on a pool area, I found a set of handcuffs, a badge, a bag, a backpack, and clothing in the restroom area.
And are you familiar with that complex?
Very familiar with that complex.
And would you be able to identify a map of that complex?
I would.
Sir, I'm going to approach what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 32. There you go. So I'm going to approach with what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 32. I'm also going to pick these up. And sir, do you recognize that map?
Can I see it in the light? Yes, ma'am.
And sir, how do you recognize that map?
Well, I can recognize the roads that it's on and also the buildings.
And sir, is that an accurate depiction of that area?
Yes, ma'am.
And sir, can this map help you illustrate your testimony to the jury today?
I believe it can.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I'd like to introduce State's Exhibit number 32 into evidence for illustrative purposes.
No objection.
Thank you. State's Exhibit number 32 is admitted for illustrative purposes.
Your Honor, permission to have the witness publish that exhibit via overhead.
That's allowed?
Permission to approach?
Yes.
Sir, I believe that there's a marker up there, but I'm going to help you with our fancy stuff here. And I'm going to introduce you to Mr. Elmo. And sir, if you can identify this area and you can just kind of point down here and look at this map and it'll show up on the overhead. Okay, yeah, absolutely. And if you want to use this pen to write on the map, if you'll just put your initials on it, and then B, follow with me as I go through the map.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes, sir?
I don't know what that red mark is.
Yes, sir?
Okay. I know
Okay.
where my buildings are, the buildings of the property.
Okay.
Okay.
With disregarding the red mark, sir, could you mark On here, are you able to see the building where you've located the items you called the police for?
That would be on Wildwood Road.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And can you put an X on the building where you found those items?
That would be right here.
Thank you. And sir, if you could in the margin just print your name and today's date.
I'm sorry, whereabouts?
Just on the margin in the white part.
Down at the bottom?
Yeah, the bottom, top. Thanks, sir. At this time, I'm going to approach with what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31. Sir, I'm going to show you these exhibits, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31. If you will look at these photos, and without describing them right now, do you recognize those photos?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you take these photos?
No, ma'am.
Do those photos accurately depict what you saw on December 19th, 2012?
Okay, when I approached the bathroom,
Okay, sir, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm just going to kind of focus you a little bit here. Do those photos accurately depict what you saw when you were in that bathroom?
yes, ma'am.
And sir, can they help you illustrate your testimony to the jury here today?
I believe these are accurate to what I found. I'm not sure what your question is to me.
No problem, sir. My questions are merely foundational, and I'm just asking this if those photos can help you tell the jury and explain to them your testimony.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, at this time I'd like to introduce State's Exhibits number 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31 into evidence as illustrative.
No objection.
Thank you. State's Exhibits 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31 are admitted for illustrative purposes.
Thank you. Sir, if you could please approach, Commissioner Bertram.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 29. And if you could explain what we're looking at here in this photo.
That is the entrance to the bathroom, of the back of the building, the pool bathroom.
And can you tell me basically what your duties were that day and how you came across this bathroom?
My duties are to clean the bathroom every morning, every day, for the pool area, for the people to use it, obviously, for the pools.
And who has access to this area?
When the pools are open, everybody has access to them. Anybody that wants to use the pools. Anybody on the property can go in there because they're unlocked.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Bertram.
Yes, ma'am.
Now I'm going to show you the next picture and put that on the Elmo unit. That would be item number 28. Sir, can you tell us what we're looking at here and explain to the jury?
Okay, when I walked in, actually, well, you can see them on the next one. This is the garbage can that's in there, and then I also saw a backpack in there. That's inside the bathroom.
Now, why was this unusual to you? What, if anything, about it was unusual?
Well, first of all, the day before that, okay, there was a big, they had a lot of police officers, SWAT on our property. They were at 1336 D2 building. They would let nobody get close to that place. It was all roped off and everything. That was the day before. So the next day when I saw this stuff in the bathroom, I called 911 because as they'll see in the next picture, I saw a pair of handcuffs in there that were not something the kids would be playing with or anything of that nature. It was regular police handcuffs. And with everything that was going on the day before, that's why I called 911.
Thank you. Commissioner Kershaw?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, can you describe for me what you saw when you looked into the trash can?
You're putting the picture up here. This is the handcuffs that I saw.
Okay.
I did not touch them. I didn't touch anything.
Okay. And were you able to look in there and find anything further?
I didn't personally look in it and touch it because I called 911, let them handle it. They even took my fingerprints and everything. So I didn't touch nothing.
Okay, and I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 30. And can you tell us what we're looking at in here?
Yes, ma'am. Again, the handcuffs were in there on top of the waist. It looks like toilet paper roller. But this is all from the day before, so.
And did you know what happened the day before?
Yes, I was familiar with the ruckus that went on with the police officers.
I'm not object to this.
Sustained.
Thank you.
Next question.
Thanks. What did you do next after you found these?
I called 911.
And what, if anything, happened after that?
The police officers came, 2 police officers came, they called the detectives, detectives came to the property, and then all of a sudden there was like 8 people, there were 8 officers of different varieties.
And when you say different varieties, how do you tell them apart?
Well, some had the uniforms on, which is the police department. Some were detectives with plain clothes on them, and they introduced themselves as detectives, and they introduced themselves as police officers.
And were you there when the officer started processing that scene?
Yes.
And were you there when they were able to take the items out of retrieve the items out of the garbage?
Yes, they were removed while I was there.
And were you able to identify the other item that was located in the garbage can?
Okay, I don't know that it was actually inside I can't remember if it was inside that garbage container or if it was in the backpack, but I believe it was in the garbage can, and that's the picture that's not being shown yet.
Okay.
Of the badge.
And you saw that?
Yes, I saw the badge there.
Okay. And does that picture accurately depict what you saw?
Yes, ma'am.
And Commissioner Kershaw?
Yes.
Sir, can you please tell us what we're looking at in that photo?
That would be a police badge. That was underneath, when they brought it out. I didn't actually see it at first until they brought it out of the trash can.
Your Honor, that is the questions that I have for Mr. Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. We'll just remain seated there. Mr. Jones, questions of Mr. Wright?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Wright.
Good afternoon.
You might have said it and I just missed it, but this was on December 19th that you saw those items, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when was the last time that you had been in that bathroom prior to that day?
Every day it's checked.
Okay. Do you know what time the prior day?
I usually try to do it in the mornings.
do you keep a logbook, or was there, it wasn't that kind of,
No, it's not that kind of an issue that we have to log it.
but you recall checking it the prior day sometime in the morning?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. That'd be all the questions I have from Mr. Wright at this time.
Any other questions, Ms. Ellis? Thank you, Mr.
Yes, Ron.
Yes, sir. Mr. Charm stated that there was a log, or if there was a log, do you know if there was any other surveillance on the campus?
No, not, well, we have cameras, but nothing that would cover any of that area.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Charles, any additional questions?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Mr. Wright, thank you very much. You may step down.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Your Honor, at this time I'd ask that Mr. Wright be released from his subpoena.
To the extent he can hear it, you're released.
Thank you.
Thank you. He is released there. All right, call the next witness, please.
Your Honor, that would be Robert Kleitz.
Thank you.
Place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall now give the court in the case now being heard shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir. Could you please state your name and occupation for the court?
Robert Kleitz,
And,
mechanic,
and what kind of mechanic?
bicycle.
And, sir, where do you work?
Bullseye bicycle,
And how long have you worked there?
3 years.
And, sir, were you so employed with that bicycle shop on 12/18/2012?
Yes.
And can you tell me what you did on that day, if you recall?
On that day, I think I was off, and I went for a bicycle ride up to the Eno River.
And which way did you go, or what pathway did you take?
The route to go up there from downtown would take you up the Ellerby Creek Trail, through Northgate Park, then along Stadium Drive before you cut through Whippoorwill Park, and then on to, I believe it's Horton Road. And then you can cut through, I don't know the name of the neighborhood up there, but that puts you out onto Roxborough, right near the entrance to the West Point on the Eno Park.
That puts you out onto Roxborough.
Roxborough Road.
Okay. And then say the rest of what you said.
Oh, near the entrance to the West Point on the Eno Park.
And did you note anything unusual on your bike ride that day?
No, but I did find a cell phone.
And when you say you found a cell phone, approximately what time did you find this phone?
I would say it was probably around lunchtime, maybe noon, 1 o'clock.
And you stated that you found a cell phone. Could you describe exactly what you found at that time?
Sure. So as I was heading out to the Eno, I was riding up the hill on Stadium Drive, and I noticed the back case of a cell phone. And you know, when you're riding, you find debris like that all the time. So I kept riding. I went to the Eno, I hung out at the river for a little bit, and then as I came down Stadium Drive on my return trip, I saw the front half of the cell phone laying on the other side of the road. So that is when, I think at that point I went across the street, I grabbed the back half, I picked up the front half of the front half was intact, and I put them together.
Now you stated that you found one on one side of the road and the other on the other side of the road. Can you explain that a little bit further? Can you tell me where in relation to the curbs that they were found?
Excuse me, in relation to the curbs?
The curbs of the road?
Yeah, I mean, each of these pieces was kind of between, where I was riding my bicycle and the curb, so along the gutter there, so to speak. Like I said, as I was riding northward on Stadium is when I found the back half, and then as I was returning home, and I wasn't going to stop for just a piece of plastic, but when I was returning home, I found the front half of the smartphone, so that was enough to make me stop and pick it up.
Now, did you travel in the same lane both trips, both out and back?
No. Of course, on the way north, I was on the right side of the road. On the way south, I was on the right side then, just as a motorist would do. So, no. Separate sides of the road.
And how far apart would you say that these two pieces were?
Oh, I mean, they were pretty much just across each other on the road, so whatever the width of a roadway is there at Stadium Drive.
Now, you stated that you found the two pieces and you put them back together. What, if anything, did you do next with the phone?
I think at that point, I took it back to the bike shop and I charged it up there and found that it was still working and functional.
And what, if anything, did you do after you found that it was working and functional?
I mean, that's pretty much where I stopped interacting with it, because, I mean, at that point I was seeing that it was receiving messages, and yeah, I don't know, I didn't have any way to figure out who the owner was or anything, so.
Were you able to view those messages?
Yeah, I saw the messages and they were saying something about some sort of accident and that kind of stuff of that nature, and so I didn't know what had happened. I thought maybe there was a car wreck or something like that.
And did you come into contact with the police in reference to this phone at any time?
Yeah, so, after, I think it was the next day, I believe, that I was there at work in the shop, and to me, I didn't know what kind of official people they were, but they were some sort of official looking people came in, and they were, a little bit agitated, and they were searching around, looking kind of around the building, and just kind of being strange, and they asked me what was behind one wall of the building, and I said, there's nothing there, it's still under development. And then behind another wall, and I was like, that's the cooler for the pizza place next door. And they said, what's up upstairs? And I said, oh, an apartment. And then they left, and as they were gone, the phone rang again. And so I'm starting to connect the dots here. And then they come back in, and as they come back in, the phone is ringing, and one of the officers, I think, he was asking me where I found it or how'd I get it. He didn't know I found it, but he said, how did you get this phone or whatever.
And what, if anything, did you say?
I told him I found it on a bicycle ride.
And what, if anything, happened next?
I don't know. I mean, as I recall, they just confiscated the phone and took down my information and said that they would get in touch with me further. And I believe it was like maybe the next day or 2 days, maybe even that same day, two more people came to speak with me about it.
And now, have you had a chance to listen to any audio statements that you may have made?
Yes, I heard a recording that was recorded when those people returned to ask me some questions.
And did that recording properly reflect the statement that you made on that day?
Yes, it was me, and it was the full discourse that we had.
Permission to approach with State's Exhibit number 33.
Yes, ma'am.
Governor, just as I'm noticing that clock is at an interesting location. Just a point of note. I just saw that, I looked up, and so I'll sit down now and let your Honor take over.
Lights, it's 5 o'clock, and that's what time we close down the court session. And so I'm going to ask if you would be back at 9. Does that create a difficult situation for you?
It does create a bit of a difficult situation. I'd prefer if we could just proceed for 5 or 10 more minutes and finish this.
Just pause for a second right there.
Please.
The court in its discretion is going to go forward for just a few more minutes if, unless somebody has any sort of an emergent situation. It's usually daycare that is the one that's the kick in the key with a penalty associated with it if you're more second late. I've got to balance what your situation is with the jurors as well. Any jurors that have a situation that would cause us that 10 extra minutes, I'm just supposing here 10 minutes. If you've got that, just raise your hand because your input is also important. All right, with no hands raised, let's go forward then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, the area of Stadium Drive that you located the phone, can you narrow down, because Stadium Drive is a pretty long road. Can you narrow down the area that you found it?
Yeah, it's easy to narrow that down because when I stopped to pick up the phone, I made note that across the way from me there was a utility service substation of some sort, that there was a maintenance guy sitting in his truck, like maybe having lunch or something, and I supposed that he was wondering what this weirdo was doing, stopping his bike ride, picking up trash on the side of the road.
Okay. And do you recall a cross street that was near?
No, I mean, this is the point between Carver and where it crosses. I believe that's Broad up there. So it's the large looping section of Stadium as you come between Carver. I think it's Broad.
Okay. Thank you. Permission to approach, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to show you what's been marked with State's Exhibit number 33 and ask you if you recognize this, sir.
Yes, I recognize that as the recording taken on that afternoon when I believe it was 3 other officers came and had some questions for me. And I've signed it here that I've listened to that.
Okay. And how do you know that that's your signature?
Because I did it.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I'd like to introduce State's Exhibit number 33 into evidence.
I object. He's testified to his memory. His memory is refreshed. I have challenged that, and I object to admission of that.
Thank you. The objection is overruled. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Permission to publish the hearing.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. where he found it. I mean, do you think that's fine? Yeah, exactly. Right here, Birmingham.
All right, we'll talk to him in a couple minutes and then we'll meet you out there. Walk around.
Birmingham.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm gonna keep it for at least a little while.
Kelly, I mean, Zippy's already asked me, Brian, you know what I'm saying? Where is it? It's right there. Right here. All right, Tom.
All right, we'll get together in a minute, Jake.
That's fine. No, worry about it.
We'll wait for the other stuff too, though. How you doing?
I'm alright.
Brown, good to meet you.
Hey there.
Andre. You guys get the only one here?
What's that?
You're the only one working in the shop right now?
Yeah.
Okay. What can you tell us about this? Like I said,
Yesterday, my day off, I was out riding. I decided to ride up to Eno. I was taking, basically went through Northgate Park, then on to the stadium, up there to get to Whippoorwill Park, through the Whippoorwill Park, up through some neighborhoods over to Eno. On my way back, I found this, and I went home and I plugged it in to charge it, and I was at work, and I didn't worry about it, and I came back. I reset it because I couldn't get any of the code on it. So I reset it thinking, all right, well, if I reset it, then I can try to maybe find out whose it is or whatever. And then it was getting a lot of messages, and it said something about an accident and all that, and so I was like, this is kind of weird. I don't know like what I should do with this phone. And so I hadn't done anything yet.
Do you know how it was being read to?
Yeah, we just record your information too. Nothing matters. Yeah.
What time do you look for that ride?
Let's see here. I got a phone call while I was out there, so I know exactly what time it was.
Did the other guy tell you why was going to send this phone?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
This was our first one on the ship.
Yeah.
No, don't take it you.
I know, but I just feel like.
Objection, motion to strike. Officer saying what it's about, which is what this trial is about. Here we go. Thank you. Could I play the train noise again, though? That was kind of cool.
Can I see counsel up here for just a minute, please?